Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Market Check, brought to you by BB. There is no second best daily YouTube live stream to talk about markets. Welcome back, guys, to another episode, another week in these markets, which have had no shortage of unpredictability lately. I know we've had background stuff going on, obviously, with the war. We kind of knew things were going to escalate. They did escalate over the weekend. We're going to talk about what that means for the market going forward. Is this the bottom? Was that, bid the war news? Or is that, potentially the beginning of something larger? Like I said, we'll talk about what that means for the coins, for Bitcoin, and of course, equity markets as well, which don't really seem to care. I mean, boomers are kind of like the quintessential Chud Jacks, which we'll probably talk about as well. But I'm Tommy. You guys also know me as Snorlax. I'm joined by Tucker, of course, Louis. What's up, guys? We should be joined by Max as well, but he is cooking up a video for you guys right now as we speak. But yeah, we're going to have a great show for you all today. Before I can get into kind of the nitty gritty of what the charts are doing, obviously how we've opened the week, and most importantly, where I think we're going to probably be trading, on Friday or even next week. I'm going to ask if you guys can smash that like button for us. Slam the like button, destroy the like button. I mean, I could come up with so many different verbs and adjectives for what you should do to the like button, but the important thing is that you press it, right? And help us grow our channel. We're always very appreciative when you guys do that, of course. And you help us get in front of more and more eyes here at BB. So if you're in the comment section, if you're always commenting, maybe you're looking for some more people to chat with, that's a great way to get more people in there with you. But that's enough yap. Let's talk about markets, right? Because obviously we have had quite a bit of movement, not just in the market, but also geopolitically. We finally had the U.S. announce they were attacking Iran, to be more precise. Was that on Friday or Saturday? I actually, I can't even remember when the headline came out, just that the coins were kind of dumping pretty much all weekend until Sunday. When we've seen some big reversion into New York Open, right? I think we're basically back at where we were trading Friday afternoon, maybe slightly below it. Equity markets are up about 0.5%. So clearly they're not, terribly bothered by what we're seeing in the Middle East. I know a lot of the bid that we're seeing is, I will say, somewhat similar to what we saw in regards to Ukraine, Russia, where people thought, okay, well, that was the climactic event. It makes no sense not to bid here. And the market ended up squeezing, I think, very high the next day. Will this be the same? I guess we'll just have to see, right? Is this the climactic event in this saga? I don't know if I think that it is, but all that matters is how the charts, inevitably trade through this. And like I said, Bitcoin has given us a strong rebound. ETH and Solana are both up 2% on the day to open the week, but it's a long week. We'll see what we get, and I do think we should see as well. I'm going to quote Chem Carson. We don't have the passive flows, the Vanna charm, right? It's been a while since you've heard me use that phrase. I know how much Tucker loves it when I say Vanna charm. We don't have those Vanna charm flows until July 7th. So we'll see what impact, if any, that has on an equity market that has been an absolute tank, right? Just no dips on equities. But the VIX still above 20. We'll see if that rears its head here over the next 2 weeks. How are we, guys? What are we seeing in the markets? How do we think about, or how are we thinking rather about, maybe not the conflict in the Middle East specifically, but how it's impacting crypto and obviously all markets?
Well, I think there's a chance. we could have bottomed here, Tommy. I do. I guess a few things. Louis, would you zoom in for me a little bit right there?
Do you want this the 6 hour, 3 hour?
You like the 6 hour, yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, you basically already have it drawn out, though, right? Like that,
Yeah.
The bottom of that very blue zone, right? Like,
yeah,
we need to flip that. Like the bottom of those wicks from the other day need to get flipped. I don't know. I think obviously, like, we could have bottomed yesterday on the max fear, war, escalation, all that. I don't know. Either way, I feel like it's going to be a short-lived thing. Like, I don't think this is going to take years to figure out. But I don't know. I think chop here is not great. Honestly, I think we need to flip some levels pretty quickly. So I wouldn't really want to see a ton of sideways right here, if I'm being honest. But
Yeah, I would agree with that. So I mean, just zooming back out here for a second, simple daily chart. I drew this in 2 seconds. It doesn't take a rocket scientist, right? And, zooming out the high time frame charts, I like to keep simple as possible, right? And block out all the noise. So yeah, I mean, right now, I've been saying this for weeks. I still believe we're consolidating at the previous all-time highs, right? Which is, the highs up here, right? So been pretty much, got rejected here back in January. Obviously, everyone knows about, from January through March and April, horrible sell-off in Bitcoin. All coins got pummeled. Put in a nice bottoming structure here. And Bitcoin had a 50% move off the lows, guys, in just a short month and a half. Right? This was a 50% move from April 12th to May 22nd. So a little, pretty much a month. And now we're seeing consolidation, right? As we should, right? We're at the biggest level at the chart on the chart at this point, which is the previous all-time highs, right? So obviously, everyone would have loved to just see this and just go straight line, continue this super steep, straight line off the bottom, into price discovery. But that not realistic, super realistic when it comes to if you're actually analyzing price action and stuff like that. Finding resistance here is not a bearish thing, right? It's a normal thing, right? We're pressing back into the biggest part or the biggest resistance level on the chart, and check level, big level, right? So after seeing a 50% leg off the lows with little to no pullbacks at all, pretty much from the low, like no major pullbacks. This is like a brief compression or consolidation. This brief compression and consolidation. Now we're finally starting to see a longer term time-based consolidation at a big level on the chart. So as we should expect, right? What I do like is this, right? We made a high, we stabbed above these highs, and this high was never ran, right? So we had a first scary little drop we had a couple weeks ago. Boom, super bullish reaction back to the consolidation structure highs here, but we never took this high, right? We never took this high, so we got external liquidity sitting directly above. We have stacked highs here, right? So if I would be way more concerned, right, as far as a price action standpoint, if Bitcoin on this move ran this high, right, took the external liquidity, got back inside, and now we were starting to bleed lower and lower into here. I would be very, very concerned if that was the structure we were looking at, but it's not, right? What we are seeing, it is a consolidation, right? Bouncing off the upper end extremes and the lower end extremes, back and forth, pretty much like a range would act, right? So, the old saying, range trading like a range until proven otherwise. Well, this is consolidation trading like consolidation until proven otherwise. And yesterday we got a scary drop, right? Started Saturday and continued to escalate and slide farther into Sunday. In the middle of the day, Sunday was not looking good, bro. Right? It was not looking good. It was super scary. But what we did do was one, we filled a major FEG here. This is a major, obvious daily inefficiency here on the chart. And when you get these sideways chopping consolidation ranges, with a lot of people trading, in the middle here, right? Very likely you're going to take that liquidity below, right? And with the overhang of the war and the possible escalation of that, this was set up for a sweep, of these lows. Take the daily liquidity, and then we'll see, right? What I do like is how we closed yesterday, right? So this is the daily candle close yesterday for Bitcoin, mostly wick, right? Mostly wick. So this was scary, right? We looked very, very ugly yesterday, middle of the day, Sunday. But where we ended the day is important, right? So Sunday came into this daily FEG, probably caught a lot of people, panic selling middle of a Sunday, and then boom, bought back up, super bullish reaction. And we closed the day back inside, our consolidation structure, right? So, I don't want to keep saying it, but consolidation until proven otherwise, right? I like the reaction on this daily FBG fill. I like the daily close yesterday. Sure, yeah, we can have a little more chop in here, right, on the lower time frame. So we can break it down a little bit here. Wouldn't be surprised if we see a little more chop going into the next couple days. But like Tucker said, I don't want to spend too much time down here, right? If that's the case, right, we start shopping down here, a retrace of some of this buyback yesterday totally makes sense, right? A little retrace, something like that, or, something like this, or, you don't have to come that deep. Maybe we just do a little bit of this, boom, something like that. Totally on the table, right? But what I don't want to see is, chop, range, can't get back above key levels, right? Which would be like that 102 level Tucker was talking about. Then you start to roll. You start seeing something like this, right? Higher time frame, longer term view for me doesn't really change much, but I think that'd be very indicative of us sadly entering another crappy, summer, right? Would just be Bitcoin kind of, legging down, bouncing, alts getting crushed along the way. And then maybe we see some resolution to that going in, later into the year. So I would agree, I would want to see a quicker reaction here, and by that, I mean later in the week, right? We could chop around here for a couple days, no problem. That's normal after seeing these big, cascading drops, especially over the weekend. So we got to let price action kind of resolve itself here, and then see, right? But I would like to see a move out of here sooner rather than later. We've tested the lower extreme of consolidation here. In theory, if we are consolidating still up here on the daily time frame, sure, like we could do some of this, but as long as we hold this level, 100K, solid support until proven otherwise. But, heading into the end of this week, right, early next week, I do want to see, us starting climbing back to the, the highs, right? The highs of this consolidation structure. If we don't, we are at risk of, rolling. And then, like I said, once again, that might end up leading to a longer term summer, which is what we've been seeing over the last 3 years, right? So it wouldn't be something we haven't seen. It's just frustrating, right? Just another crappy summer of price action we got to deal with. So looking for that quicker reaction. We tested the lower extreme of consolidation. We filled daily inefficiencies below. I'm looking for a bullish reaction, heading back to the upside, later into the week. So that's how I'm looking at this. Super simple. No reason to overcomplicate it. And then we go from there, right? But the levels are clear, right? Like Tucker said, 102 to the bottom of this blue box, recapturing old all-time high market structure. That's a great start. I think a much better start would be 104, 105K, back up here. Maybe we get rejected one more time at the highs. But ultimately, I think this resolves higher, right? With these stacked highs, billions of dollars worth of liquidity sitting up here. And that'll be the fuel, right? That'll be the fuel that will juice us into price discovery, in my opinion.
I don't love that we swept 100K.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Yeah, I would agree. But we're still not. It still hasn't been lost at the same time, right? It still hasn't been lost. So wick below it on the daily, it's a wick, right? It's a wick. That wick low is lost. We start closing the daily because even yesterday we didn't close the day below 100K. I think we closed at like 101, something like that. So we start seeing daily closes below 100K. That longer term crappy summer with the price action where maybe we pull something like this, right, where it's just like and we do this round out, and then maybe this is later in the year, Q3, Q4. And this is what we're looking at, something like this, right? That could make sense. But I'm not going to be entertaining that scenario until 100K is clearly lost on the daily time frame, and this consolidation structure is lost as well. So definitely an option, right? Definitely not something I'm ignoring and being ignorant to the fact that can totally play. But just right now, the way I'm looking at this daily chart, that's kind of how, I got to respect my levels until proven otherwise. So yes, we're at the lower end of the extreme. So obviously this is the scariest part of it, right? The same way max bullishness at the highs of the consolidation, right? So you get max FOMO, max bullishness at the upper end extremes of consolidation, and you get the max fear, max FUD at the lower ends of extreme. All the while, you're just consolidating before a massive breakout, which I think is what we're going to see as long as, like we said, we start to see continued bullish buyback down here relatively quickly over the next week or so. We're climbing back to the highs, and then we do something like that. So, it's if and then, right? It's if and then, higher time frame, we start seeing something like that low, that crappier summer view. Yeah, maybe I'd probably cut some exposure, take some off the table. Because holding your full portfolio through a crappy bleeding summer is not something you want to do. It's not fun. But conviction bags probably will just hold on, right? Hold on, trim some fat, wait this out, let it play out, come back later in the year, looking to catch the leg, right? But right now, I still think we have a great shot at Bitcoin being in price discovery, within this summer.
I agree. I think, like, for me, I just need to see it hold like 97s, honestly, and I'll be fine. But ideally right here, right? Definitely ideally right here. Here, let me pull this up real quick, actually, just to show it. This one. Yeah, so let me zoom out real quick. Am I in log? I don't want to be in log. I think I need to take one more. Yeah, I think it was that one. Okay. So I'll delete that. So really would have liked to see this hold yesterday. Let me see, where's the brush? I mean, we had pretty good support here. We broke it. This was the target, essentially. Haven't quite gotten there, but we did fulfill this FVG, right? I guess the weekly FVG we filled.
Even better.
Pretty much fully, almost fully, not quite fully, but if I put it back on.
The weekly is pretty clear too that we filled that liquidity. If we do begin to roll here, next major liquidity and market structure sitting low 90s. So this is the area to hold. We got to hold, right? But
I think if you lose 100K, you're knifing straight into that level, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree.
You're probably getting.
Yeah, but
no, I'd give this a chance for a little. Give it a chance.
That's pretty much what I'm saying. You got to give it a chance here at this point. You're not you don't want to sell support on risk of losing support, right? You want to be bidding support. If it doesn't work out, you know where you're going, but you got to give it a chance. And just the way it played out, right, over the weekend, once again, thin move. Equities not seeming to care as much here. The overall environment is, not, is not screaming bearish here, but like understanding where we could go, understanding where we're at. So kind of got to just stick with my guns here with what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with respecting the fact that markets are in an uptrend. But I also think if we lose 100K, like that's not a knife that I'm looking to catch necessarily either, because I feel like realistically, like we slow grinded back into the highs. We didn't just we swept the highs. If we break 100K, this looks a little bit like distribution at range highs. You know, just kind of playing rotations. You'd be kind of looking for range lows at that point. I don't know if that's quite what I expect on Bitcoin, but I would be more eager to let the dust settle if we lose 100K, because I think, you know, if you frame kind of the last 6 to 8 weeks of price from a potential context that it was distribution, you know, we're talking about a downside break that I don't really think stops at like mid to low 90s. I do think it will come lower at that point. I don't know what it would look like. Is it going to be a stair step? Is it just going to be a nasty candle? Who knows? But I do think, you know, just you have to hold this level on BTC, structurally speaking, or else you're going to not just come down structurally, but you're talking about unwinding almost 2 months of positioning up here. But I think I'm becoming a bigger and bigger Bitcoin dominance bull for the summer. Having seen, you know, I would ETH has definitely been relatively stronger than the rest of the market. I will point that out. But just looking at the way that altcoins are kind of hanging on a cliff's edge structurally, when you look at their high time frames, I'm going to point to Sol specifically. You know, Bitcoin is going to lose 100K. Some of these altcoins are probably going to make lows a little bit deeper than they did back in March and April.
Yeah, that would be that would be quite something. I don't know, man. What do you? I know we kind of gone over the levels for Bitcoin. Like I think we've got, you know, 96, 90 to 91. Let's get into ETH a little bit. What do you think about ETH, Tommy?
I mean, ETH's, I think, a little bit more interesting because, and I think this is something that we mapped out on like last week, the potential for like a PO3 setup on ETH, which, you know, maybe that still ends up developing. We traded all the way down into 2100. But I think it, you know, in kind of the same way with Bitcoin, you got to hold this level. You got to prove to me that this is a PO3, or even just kind of like grind out a bottom here over the next few weeks. I don't think that is an outcome that's necessarily like improbable. It's just kind of, I want to be a little bit more patient given the move that we've now seen to the downside, or I just wait for like a reclaim and buy and long there, right? I think if you're longing ETH here, you're kind of gambling a little bit, just based off, you know, kind of the way that some of these altcoins look on a higher time frame.
For sure. Yeah, this would be a kind of a weird spot to bid, I guess, but right, because you're like betting it doesn't do that. You know, you're betting we kind of do this. So, but I mean, if you are in sell the rip mode, that's the spot. This is the spot. Well, this
was
is kind
at
of
2350, something like that.
Yeah, 2380, something like that. But
yeah, it's like 2350, 2400. Like, you want to see price getting back above there, reclaiming that. You know, if you successfully do that, you know, you got a good shot, right? You got a good shot at, you know, continuation, right? We had this is like a 7-8 week compression, right? We knew, you know, we were all under the same impression that like we knew like a big move was coming like soon, right? Because like there's only so long ETH could trade sideways, you know, in a tight range like this, right? A tight compression. So we obviously got that move to the downside first. I would agree. You know, I wouldn't be blindly bidding ETH here. You know, I'd be watching for either, you know, 2350, 2400 reclaimed. Okay, looking great. But, you know, again, you know, like I was saying, you know, if we continue to roll the weekend low that we made not being respected, I also wouldn't be sitting around for the next month and a half, 2 months trying to call bottom on every, you know, bounce, right? I'd be like, okay, the, you know, bullish for the summer, you know, kind of thesis not going to play out. We're going to see what we're used to seeing, right? Which is crappy, slow bleed summers. You know, month or two down the line, you know, come back, look for more opportunities. I'm not going anywhere, obviously, but, you know, looking for more opportunities around that time. Let the market kind of play out, and then go from there. So this is kind of where we need to see the reaction. We need to see the reaction. And if I had to put a time frame on it, I want to see these levels, reclaimed, going into the end of the week, early next week, the latest. If we're not doing that, it's looking like a crappy summer, sadly. But still, my base case, and I think coming into the end of the summer, as long as we can hold these levels and have these bullish reversals down here, I think we can see Bitcoin trading and price discovery before the summer's up. But again, we're at that lower extreme. We're like, okay, we're here. We got the scary drop. We knew we were getting a big move at some point. We got it. Let's see what happens, right? Let's see what happens. So
I almost feel like this is a way of viewing the Bitcoin chart with less noise.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
Like
it's
we
cleaner.
kind of have broken structure on some of these altcoins. You have to get a reclaim. You have to have Bitcoin show strength, or else you're probably looking at some much deeper pullbacks. And like Louis said, I won't be sitting around here all summer waiting for a bottom, if that's, or like trying to pick out a bottom if that's the case, and just let range and bear trend play out if that's what it's going to be. Which would be obviously super unfortunate after we've kind of consolidated here for almost 2 months, especially on ETH. I don't really know like what that would mean as far as downside targets for Ethereum, but we kind of just have to play it by ear. I think you can take a little bit of signal from things in DeFi. That's kind of always been my MO, like a Pendle, for example. I could Pendle potentially trade higher later this week. Sure. I think when we look at the high time frame of something like Pendle, it looks like it's high time frame distributive, but I think you have other DeFi protocols that look a little bit more interesting, right? Like Aave or Maker that have been a lot stronger than Pendle. But maybe we can get some signal from, I think, some of these more, we'll call them fringe proxies for ETH, but
Yeah.
oh man.
Okay. Let's just pull them up all right. They are. Boom. Let's see if it, kind of looks the same a little bit. It doesn't look, I feel like this looks better than Aave, honestly.
Yeah. My only fear with Maker is that it's just doing what Sonic did a few months ago when we were looking at that.
Yeah.
Like the structure looks very similar.
Yeah, let's see.
Might have to do FTM.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So, they kind of look a little bit similar.
Yeah.
Looks like that chart ended in like
that chart's
February,
done.
but we know what it ended up playing out like, and it basically just did what Sky did, where it seemed like we were gonna get this really nice pump on it, and I hope the Maker is different than FTM ended up playing out. But yeah, the pump on FTM did not come. It was actually just kind of redistribution. I hope that's not the case with Maker.
I mean, it's still kind of grinding up, don't you think? I mean, it doesn't look terrible yet.
Yeah, I feel like once again we're at a spot where like things need to hold, or we're going a lot lower. It's crazy, man. It's like it's like we just haven't seen a trending market in the altcoin market in like multiple years. It's just like every time you think we're gonna get a trend, it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, and it's frustrating, man. It's very frustrating.
Yeah. I guess this is the spot chart. Do we have a non-spot chart?
For Maker, I don't know that you need one.
I mean, yeah, I guess you probably don't need one. Well, that would be interesting to pull up Circle, actually.
I did see we had a super chat asking us about Circle.
Oh, let me
from Chris Jones.
Chris Jones, man. I got that signed jersey. It's great. Let me go to TradingView. Circle. Boom. Okay.
That means when you don't buy the IPO for once.
I saw a great tweet about that. About this
Dude.
morning is like, I shouldn't let the fact that I didn't get any shares in the IPO stop me from buying the IPO.
Dude,
But I'll be honest, every time I bought a crypto IPO, I ended up losing money. So, or like Coinbase.
Yes.
Was
dude,
that
that's
way,
that's what I'm doing right now. Like, you buy the IPO.
That's what happens.
Wait.
Literally, it's
Hold on. This is good stuff. You buy the IPO. You buy the IPO. You don't buy the IPO on Circle, and it just absolutely sends. Look at that. I mean,
ridiculous, man. Oh my god.
you're like, oh, I'm not going to buy crypto IPOs anymore. Just bang.
I know Wabi is really bullish on Circle. I'm not quite as familiar with the company, but
Are you familiar with
So-
USDC?
I mean, I am familiar with USDC, but I mean, is it really that different of a product than Coinbase?
Well, they're not an exchange, are they?
They're not an exchange, but Coinbase effectively has a monopoly on USDC, or at least they did until Hyperliquid came along.
Yeah. I guess it's really, I mean, it shouldn't be that different. I don't know. I think people just hear stablecoin and, think US dollar, a way to spread US dollar dominance, etc. The government's going to push this. Let's bid. Like,
I mean, they're kind of like the next generation of money printers.
yeah.
They just print money, but just on the internet. Tether's proven that it's a very, very profitable business. Being in the stablecoin business.
I think this is real too. Like, we're definitely seeing some of the flows that would have gone into things like altcoins, ETH, and Sol go into these trad markets that are. I mean, it's not just Circle. It's also, I think, some of these Bitcoin treasuries, if that's what they're calling themselves now.
Yeah.
Which what do we make about the fact that Pomp and Cardone are both doing a Bitcoin treasury here?
Oh, Pomp's doing one too?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Well, I spoke to Grant Cardone on Spaces last week, where he's pretty much buying, raising money, buying Bitcoin on the balance sheet, combining that with real estate, and then turning around and leveraging that as an asset to go out and buy other assets. I mean, I'm sure I don't know how that ends. I do like the idea of it where it's like he's not just strictly buying Bitcoin, turning around and leveraging it. He's taking Bitcoin, combining it with his real estate, and then going, okay, 20% Bitcoin, 80% real estate, and leveraging that and loaning against that. That makes a little more sense to me, a little safer. But yeah, I don't really know. It seems to be a trend now. And we'll see how it works out. I don't know if that's a topping signal or not. Could be, but who knows? What about Coinbase? Like, that's another thing that has me in like all stuff aside what we've seen over the weekend. Friday, or I don't know if it was Thursday. No, it was Friday because the markets are closed Thursday. Coinbase just putting in like a 16% need stick to the upside. Clearly breaking high time frame structure, probably the biggest level on the chart, and it looks like it wants to go, right? It wants to go on a leg. Like, what kind of signal are you guys taking from that? For me, that's bullish, right? For me, that's a leading indicator for crypto. They're bidding Coinbase stock. I don't know the history behind like how Bitcoin or ETH or alts follow Coinbase stock. It hasn't really been around that long, but that's also another thing where I'm just like, weekend got shitty price action. Obviously, we have all these war scare news going on right now. But you're seeing Circle rip to the upside. You're seeing Coinbase looking like it wants to go for a high time frame, multi-year breakout. Like that's bullish to me, right? So if we were seeing Coinbase bleed back to the lows here, I'd be way more concerned. But the fact that we're seeing the opposite, we're seeing Coinbase stock rip right now, Circle ripping. What do you guys think about that? Hey, Max.
I definitely think they're benefiting from Circle tailwinds, right?
Yeah.
I think it's too early to see if it's signal for crypto markets. I think in August, I did not think that Coinbase ripping would be signal for markets, and it was. And it took I think a 12 to 24-hour lag before we started to see that get priced in. I remember the candle. I mean, it was Coinbase earnings. It went from what was it, like 190 all the way up to like 320 within a day or two. So it was a sick candle that Coinbase put in last fall. But what I remember was that ETH followed suit probably like 12 to 24 hours later. We haven't quite seen that yet. We've kind of seen the opposite. So I'm being a little bit more patient, seeing how that correlation plays out.
So if you want to look at it this way, Coinbase and that time period you're talking about, right, topped December 5th. And I think Bitcoin ended up topping like a month later, like around inauguration. So maybe there is like a longer term lag that we're seeing here. But Coinbase above 275, right, is bullish, right? And I actually talked about this on stream a couple weeks ago. Like, really like Coinbase, was buying it at the lows, March, April. Looks like a high time frame bullish chart. And happy to be long, right? Happy to be long, and that's why it's good to have a little exposure to the stock market. Diversify, right? Obviously, I'm diversifying into crypto stocks along with crypto. So sometimes it doesn't play out this way. Sometimes you get the double screw, right? But
we call that, Louis, the good old Texas hedge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a hedge, but not really. But Coinbase above 275. If it could hold it, flip into support, I think it's going to $600 plus. And if you see a stock like Coinbase ripping into price discovery back to its IPO price from the 2021 top, I think that's indicative of a crypto bull run. So, as long as we continue to see that, that's just going to be another thing that keeps me in the game and keeps me bullish here, right? So there are some signals, although the weekend was crappy, that are still kind of giving me bullish signals here for crypto.
And I can't think of a time, and maybe there is we could find a place on the chart. I can't remember a time when either crypto ripped and Coinbase didn't follow shortly after, or vice versa. It would be very strange, in my view, for like Coinbase to just start going or like continue this push higher and stick the landing, and crypto to not eventually follow. It can lag. It does that. But I don't really think that it makes sense for a crypto business to start ripping where like one of their primary, if not the primary source of their revenue is like brokering the buying and selling of crypto, taking huge fees, arguably way higher than they should for retail.
There's no arguably, they are way too high.
For sure.
Nice, but
yeah,
egregiously high. So it's like I think crypto's just had a poor weekend. It's just another instance of like, it's actually quite annoying how like there's always drama on the weekends and crypto's the only market available to just like panic sell into like a poor catalyst. And then stocks open and everybody calms down again. But and Louis, can you actually on your terminal here, can you go to the DCA page real quick? So go to the scroll down on the left side, or I guess just look for like the returns by day, week, month. It's right in the middle there, that table. Yeah, right there. Go to monthly for me. And also looking at July, July is typically one of the most bullish months. Scroll down a little bit so you can see the average. July is the second most bullish month historically for Bitcoin, only second to that of October, right? So seasonality is one of those things where I wouldn't encourage anyone to look at seasonality and like bet the family farm that like, oh, on average, we're typically bullish like January. I'm just going to go all in for January because like there are plenty instances of seasonality not working, but it is a data point that I think if you apply the proper context and look at it, it kind of complete the picture, right? Look at technicals, look at fundamentals, look at what like crypto stocks are doing, look at like everything, right? I think it's an important piece of data to consider or to use within your analysis to say like, hey, look, okay, typically June is not great, right? Look at June going back to 2018 there. Not great, right? More red than green. On average, it's a red month. We've got 1 week left of June. Keep expectations kind of grounded, okay? July is typically very good. It doesn't mean it's a guarantee, but I think it's something to consider within your analysis to say, hey, Bitcoin is kind of chilling out here above 100, not really looking too bad, heading into what is the second most bullish month historically for Bitcoin. So this is just something I wanted to point out is like, look, this weekend was crappy. June is typically not amazing, you know. Sometimes it's okay. We've had a couple instances of, you know, very bullish Junes, but typically July is when things start to kind of turn that corner, right?
June has not been so joyful,
We had
unfortunately.
about 10 days of joy.
We did.
Yeah.
That seems like too many. I don't even remember 10 days. I feel like,
Yeah, maybe like 5.
yeah.
Nah.
Best I can do is 2 days of joy and the rest pain.
Best I can do. Final offer.
Less pain. Oh my god.
But I am looking at a lot of charts that are at more or less kind of must hold levels, which I actually don't mind. I actually don't mind that because it offers a really unique setup for like, I'm gonna buy here with tight invalidation, and we're getting kind of close to those levels where I think you have pretty clean invalidation generally. Like you don't have to enter some crazy huge invalidation trade. But yeah, I mean, I think that things look generally like how you'd expect, right? I think that things look pretty good. Someone says, Max, you betrayed me. I don't even know what that means. I don't know what I did.
It's your fault the market's not going higher, Max.
Mhm.
I know. It is my fault. You might need to put that one in log there.
Yeah.
Do the MVRV too, Lou. It's a good one.
Okay. So this has to cross, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's the
You gotta
350
see it cross.
350-day sped up SMA and the 111-day SMA. When those cross, that's technically the pi cycle top, which we'll see. I'm actually not so confident that the pi cycle top is going to work this cycle. Yeah, I'm a little bit more skeptical just because we've had something that's been, I'd say, a little bit less characteristically familiar with Bitcoin this cycle is we haven't had these like 6 to 8 month ranges in previous cycles like we have this time.
Yeah, you can see it in the
something
chart.
that's materially different. It doesn't mean that we're like off track from a cyclical perspective. It's just structurally like we literally rip face for like 10 days, 2 weeks, and then range for 6 to 8 months. And it's horrible. But I think because of that, these SMAs, my gut is telling me that unless we just start literally ripping face very soon, I don't know if I would put a ton of. I don't know if I would think it's super likely that we get that cross this cycle, but maybe. I hope we do, because that means we probably go to like 300K, but we'll see.
I think the longer the cycle goes, obviously the bigger the likelihood for potential topping targets are. I think there could just be something to the idea that Bitcoin's going to trade like more of a TradFi asset now, and it's probably going to grind slow and to the right over time, while altcoins undergo much more, painful and euphoric liquidity cycles, kind of in between.
Yeah, I could see that.
But then I ask myself, okay, where does ETH fit in, right? Because ETH has been kind of strong these last 2 months. Before you got here, Max, I think we were pointing out that ETH kind of just looks like a way of contextualizing Bitcoin right now with a little bit less noise. Altcoins broke support. They need to be painting effectively like these PO3s, these reclaims. Just in the same way that Bitcoin really kind of needs to hold 100K, or else you're looking at lower pricing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, if ETH doesn't stick the landing on a structural reclaim right now it looks totally fine. It wouldn't surprise me to see ETH move back down, maybe even like 100 points from here, but you really can't go below like the weekend low of like 2100. Let's just say you could flirt with it, but you just can't lose that level. If you lose that level, then you're probably going to like 1850, right? So
I do think any downside on ETH is going to be a lot more protected than Solana. Solana would get murdered if we drop. I think ETH probably relatively muted downside.
Yeah, I'm not bullish on Solana here.
I just had to get my quota in.
I like that you've diverted your attention from bullying ETH to Sol, I will say. Yeah, I mean, looking at the Sol ETH pair still at like, I could see a world in which it retests like 0.065 and then rolls over, but the Sol ETH pair is still something that I'm not interested in at all. So we could dissect like again what that means or implies based on the direction of Bitcoin, but yeah, I'm not interested personally.
This weekend, people were already like, "Oh, Sol ETH is looking good. It's looking bottom." And I'm thinking to myself, "Well, you're buying the first pump that we've really had on Sol ETH in like weeks, and it is still topped." So I don't know. I think it's like a complacent. People still want to believe that the opportunity in this market is going to be on Solana from here, and I just think that there are so many things pointing to that not being the case.
I mean, Sol Bitcoin looks horrendous. It looks even worse than Sol ETH, in my opinion. Like,
yes,
it looks. I mean, Sol Bitcoin looks like it literally wants to nuke like 50%. Like as soon as Bitcoin picks a direction here, it just looks so bad.
Yeah, you're right, man. Jeez,
it looks way worse.
Yeah.
So like we could debate which way Bitcoin goes, low 90s or 110 up, people seem pretty divided. We could debate that, but I won't even debate how terrible Sol BTC looks. It just like you need such an unbelievable reclaim on Sol B. Like you need a 50% move on Sol BTC in order for it to start looking good, literally.
Yeah.
And
which
you can guarantee that if Sol BTC were to even put in a 10% move one day or something, people are gonna make, oh, like you faded Sol, and then it's just gonna nuke right back off. It needs so much to start looking good.
It's like staring down the barrel of reaccumulation at this point, but it hasn't even carved out the range yet. So
yeah, literally.
I mean, it looks to me like it's breaking down right now. Sol BTC.
Yeah, it is.
It's
It's
breaking.
going. Tommy, what was the level
Should we
you
pull
wanted?
this up?
I
have
think
the
it's. I think we're going to like 0.00089,
1.
like 8 and 9, which is still another 40% from here.
Yeah, I see that.
We can only pray that comes off the back of Bitcoin price discovery and not
we have
Bitcoin
to.
nuking.
We have to.
It has to, yeah. Because I mean, Sol's market structure just it dictates that it has to be the case, or else the correlation is going to be to the downside, and Sol USD is about to get bodied.
Bodied, yes.
I
also think the context of this is important too. Like the swing low we're breaking is the one that we broke, or is the one that we broke out of in 2020, towards like the very end of 2023 that started the run. Not that one, but the swing low that we are kind of trading below right now.
Right here?
The one from, you almost had it. The
what year are we talking about?
2023, like the very, very end of the year.
No, like the bottom.
That
like,
one. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was like, what are we talking
dude, this chart it's literally ETH BTC, like mid bear market is what it is.
Yeah.
And here's the thing too, is like I could see right here Sol USD coming down easily into like 110, like without question. If we get like a retest of the weekend lows on Bitcoin and ETH or something like that, I think Sol could puke to 112, 110. I would expect that region generally, at least locally, to hold. Let me just steal this from you real quick here. Like looking at Sol, I think that you could just view this as a range right here. I think it's really clean. Really clean. Like range high, range low, mid-range, mid-range. You had one deviation met with a symmetrical deviation. I could very easily see like this, and then you kind of have like a 3-tap, situation down here. This would not surprise me at all. I think you would for sure want to see Sol USD hold this demand right here. But I think then the real question is, like, let's put up Bitcoin down here. Then I think the real question becomes, all right, can Bitcoin manage to hold without breaking down to mid-90s? Because if Sol comes into here, then I think it probably just implies Bitcoin like takes out the weekend low like this. Does Bitcoin end up reclaiming its range, which it's in a clean range right now, clean enough. It looks decent, right? Does Bitcoin do this and then move up? Or then does Bitcoin come down, lose the range? If it loses it, it's coming down into here. If Bitcoin does that, the summer's cooked, right? That'll not be fun. If that happens and Bitcoin comes down into this region, then Sol is not holding this level. Then Sol is literally coming down to like $80. Okay. Like then Sol is literally, then I'd probably be looking at like this region. Okay. I don't think it'll do a full retrace down to here, but then I think Sol would come to like this level. If Bitcoin goes to here, like let's just say 90K. All right. I think Sol would literally come to 80, which is very in line with my expectations of Sol BTC, just literally like giving out here. I almost feel like looking at the chart, that's kind of the most likely scenario is like a weekend, like a retest of the weekend lows. Everybody just freaks out.
We always see that. It's
And then
always
you
that
see
second drop.
You see Sol BTC put in like a quick puke. Like I almost think it would do something like this, like soon. And then you probably get like a big bounce. Everybody's like long Sol, and then it just like continues to underperform Bitcoin and not really do too much for a while.
wonder if there's like any big players on Sol that like would get carted out if like that move happened. Like you'd have to think, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
You would
like, what
think.
are the two market leaders on Solana for on chain right now? Probably Fartcoin and Launchcoin. We can take a look at those. I know Fartcoin's kind of been like our risk on indicator per se.
Yeah.
I was looking at Fartcoin this morning. You know what chart it kind of looks like actually is MicroStrategy. As funny as that sounds,
Yeah.
it's not quite MicroStrategy, but like the blow off top and now a potentially rounding second top looks exactly like the way that MSTR is shaping up right now. So either, you know, it's bait and we're about to rip out of it to new highs, or you know, we're seeing distribution at these levels for something like Farcoin.
Yeah, let me pull up MSTR side by side. I
You're
mean,
gonna laugh about how similar these look.
MSTR looks awkward at best, I would say.
awkward at best.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me zoom in a little bit more.
I mean, if we just view them both as beta and ignore the names, it's like
They trade side by side. That's crazy. MSTR looks better, but no magnet. Boom.
yeah, this is what I was talking about, where there's a lot of these tickers that look like they are at more or less gotta hold levels. I would say
Yeah.
Fartcoin on Sol being one of them, where you're not going to want to see too much lower than here. You can see a little bit, but you're not going to want to see too much lower than here. I'll give it a little bit of wiggle room, but you're going to want to see some of these levels hold, which actually, like, I don't mind when charts start looking like they got to hold, because it's usually a pretty good place to shove. And then if you're wrong, it's just you get out for a little scratch. But
Yeah. That's
you're
the best
going to want to
place
see
do business.
Fartcoin put in some, like, I don't know if there's any like hidden bull divs that are forming on Fartcoin here or something like that, but Fartcoin, we're not even singling out Fartcoin because it's been tremendously strong, or at least a tremendous performer for a while now. But you know, there's a lot of coins that look like you're going to want to see these levels hold, otherwise we're going to get a flush. You know,
Flush
we're not
into
there
like
yet. We're not there
crappy
yet, but
summer.
we're getting close.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I've been saying, Max. It's like we're there. We're at the lower extremes. If we hold here, you know, we still got a great shot at, you know, the rest of the summer turning out great. But if we don't, you know, alts get pummeled once again over the summer. Bitcoin takes, you know, a month or two to reaccumulate, round out, probably crappy price action. And then, you know, if we are going to go for that final leg after that happening, likely coming, you know, closer to August, September, October, or something like that. You know, I would agree.
What do we make of Pepe here? I mean, full fill FVG doesn't look terrible, man. I don't love the full retrace, but you know.
To me, this Pepe structure looks just like January, February of last year.
That?
No, January, February last. You'll have to put it in log mode. Like, see that kind of like the limp meat pattern back into support. It looks very similar to me, so I'm trying not to overthink it. But obviously, it's very contingent upon like ETH holding basically the weekend lows of like 2,100, give or take, which of course would imply Bitcoin not flushing down into the 90s. So again, I think if we can get some retests of the weekend lows, really, like, that will be very revealing what's going to happen next. If we go back down to those weekend lows and see a quick buyback, I think you're going to see a lot of these coins put in some pretty quick recoveries. But again, if you don't hold those, then I mean, you're talking about full retraces of the April, May impulse. And summer is going to suck, you know. But I'm still, like we were talking about, we were looking at the BB terminal chart of July. July is typically a pretty prosperous month for crypto. So we're coming to a head here. We're coming to a fork in the road where, you know, we're either going to start holding these levels and head into July looking pretty bullish. And again, it's Monday after a terrible weekend. So, you know, let's give it a little time to tell us what it's going to do. We are either going to spring very hard out of these slow bleeds that we're seeing across the board into a bullish July, or we are in for another minimum 60 days of bullshit.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. That's where I'm at.
At least I mean, if it's bullshit, can it at least be volatile bullshit instead of ranging?
no, best I can do is ranging bullshit.
I'd like the opportunities to actually make money trading rather than just crab.
Best I can do is poverty and churning. That's it.
God, so awful.
Let's look at total.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
That's like the best chart.
Can you do me a favor,
Block out the
Tucker?
noise.
Extend that green box to last cycle's all-time high.
Just on log. No, good. It's not. All right, let's see.
Oh, good. It's not.
We got to start off log.
It's a crazy thing to say out loud.
We'll get to log.
That's a crazy.
This chart,
thing to say.
is a chart I actually look at in log. This is the
I
chart look
know.
at.
Some of these you probably should. So, you know.
Either way, it doesn't matter. It's a horizontal
Yeah.
level. It's like this is, you can see the significance of this 3 trillion level. Incredibly significant.
Mm-hmm.
We should probably know this week if it's going to hold or not. If it doesn't hold, then you're coming back down to 2.8, 2.7.
Yeah, maybe 2.7.
But we need more time.
But like for me, the way the way I have it drawn is like you could bring that green box all the way down to that level because that's like the first high, you know. So like if you use both highs from the 2021 high, anywhere from here down to like 2.7, 2.8, you know, you're still bullish, right? You're still bullish. Below, not so much, right? Not so much. So if you just wanted a simple chart, block out all the noise, you know, and this is a great one to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Daily RSI almost at the lower extreme. That's a great sign as well. Like look at every time we've come down there, right? We're forming a bottom, right? We're forming a low.
Yeah, you know, the problem is like it can form a low and then have these stupid bounces and just do this, you know.
Yeah, that would be the crappy summer that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Just like we saw last summer, you know.
But
You just
I
can't-
think
I mean,
it's
that-
also
That daily looks just like, I mean, like that those two, or rather like, you don't want this to turn into a lower high on total. So I'm looking at Bitcoin's daily right now. I guess it looks a lot like that total chart. Just like, I don't love the way we've kind of bled into 100K. It's funny because it's like the slow moves are either the most obvious fades, or in hindsight, you look back and you're like, damn, we slow bled into support. So, I mean, we really need Bitcoin to hold above 100K. Not to sound redundant or like a broken record, but I was just looking at the at some of the more high time frame charts for total and Bitcoin.
Well, Bitcoin has a higher high here, right? That's the divergence. Is altcoins got destroyed, right? Bitcoin looks like that, you know.
I mean, I think you want to assume, and generally it's safe to assume, that support will in fact be just that, support. The structure in which we're approaching or bleeding into that support doesn't look the most encouraging. It usually doesn't until something happens, like we get a buyback or, you know, whatever. but you want to assume like, hey, we are at support, play it like support. You know, it always looks super bullish into resistance and super bearish into support. But you just don't know until it ends up happening, right?
Yeah. Where's the damn? There it is. Oh, it's unavailable for total. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah,
They won't let you bar replay total.
they
But
gotcha.
anyways, yeah, you know, looked pretty bad right there, right? It looked over. So this is a good
Apparently,
point.
we can expect an attack by Iran within 48 hours. We'll see if that's just yap or if that's real. Maybe that's why we're kind of seeing this this intraday sell-off.
I don't, dude, what can they even do? Like, I'm not even the one to like know. I'm not the most well versed in an issue that's this complicated, but I'm like, what are they gonna do? Like, what is this? You know, like fire a bomb at like a U.S. embassy and be like, see, like great success. We like fired back. Like, what are they gonna do? You know?
I mean, the worst they could do is I don't even know how to say it, but it's like the Strait of
Hormuz.
Yeah.
Yeah, the oil is a problem. The oil is a problem.
I mean, realistically, from a military standpoint, they can't do anything, Max. Like we'll see them strike back at us, and then we'll respond again. Maybe it continues like that forever and ever and ever. At least, I mean, that seems like that's always been happening for as long as I've been alive. But yeah, I think the Strait of Hormuz, however you say that, is like the economic bargaining chip that could impact markets. I have no idea how that's going to impact things like oil and stuff like that. But you know, I think if we're waiting for like a climax to the situation, it's probably going to be something. It's either going to be climactic event or, you know, peaceful resolution. I feel like the latter is looking a little bit less probable as every day goes on. But climactic event.
You were saying you thought escalation was next, right? And we got that.
Yeah.
So maybe a little bit more escalation, but I would say we're closer to resolution than we were, you know, a few days ago. But
like if they close that straight, you probably get a big down move on equities, oil spikes, and then I would be hopeful that would probably be the climactic event of this saga, but who knows? You know, I'm not a Middle East expert either.
No, none of us are.
Who on this panel is a Middle East expert? We need one.
Louis.
Louis is a Middle East expert?
I'm the farthest.
That's great news.
Maybe Prometheus. He's a bit of a macro bro.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I think it's a lot more probable that we get de-escalation, but gut feeling, I could be totally wrong. It's a complicated issue. And I live in Minnesota. I do not know. Hey, but at least we're not up here LARPing like we know everything about geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, like a lot of people on CT. Your average on-chain trench warrior acting like he knows it all, you know. Becomes an expert overnight. Watches one.
We saw the same thing with tariffs, right? Like tariffs, you know, was an issue, became more and more of an issue for the markets. Over time, everyone's trying to figure out, you know, what is that going to do to the markets? Like if this, then that, and you know, what's going to be the overall implications. And by the time everyone was trying to become a tariff expert, you know, price action, like we were putting in a high time frame bottom, right? So it doesn't, as far as a price analyst goes, right? It doesn't do you any good trying to look for the next headline, try to look into these things because we don't know anything, right? So
it's going to be
let
damn
price
near
action.
impossible to position based off of headlines with something like this.
Yeah.
That is a certainty. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Well, you definitely love as a trader of markets that we have all of these headlines constantly impacting the natural flow of price. Said no one ever. It's awful, man. I hate when I have to take positioning and at the same time I feel like you have to babysit it a lot more frequently when there's risk of a headline at any given moment that can screw up your positioning. But I also think something to be said with that as well. You know, when we start to see those headlines impacting the market less and less, you're probably at an inflection point per se.
Yeah. Have we gotten any bad headlines today that didn't nuke us? That would be great. That would be lovely.
Well, as crypto enthusiasts, we get to have the weekend original scare with
True.
us hitting Iran, and then now we get the second with they might retaliate, so we always get both ends of the stick.
Yeah.
We get the double dip.
Mhm.
Lucky us. How do we ever get so
Yeah.
lucky?
Grateful.
Great.
I mean, all the while we're literally just backfilling the weekend, the move we saw yesterday, which is totally normal, right? Big sell off into the middle of the day, Sunday, big bounce going into Sunday night. We always see these moves retraced, 75, 100% of the way, and then we see what happens, right? But this is that second drop, right? People, you get that first scary drop, you get the nice big bounce off the lows, everyone gets optimistic again. You get that second rollover, which we're seeing now, lower time frame. People get way more bearish than they were today than they were yesterday, and then you get that double bottom or that higher low in the lower time frame. So that's what I'm watching for, right?
So
Jeez.
we're clearly going for the weekend lows, right? Like this
Yeah.
is gonna be that kind of moment to see if we get a reaction.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So this is the moment, like this is where you in theory should hold somewhere around here. I mean, I could see a full sweep of the lows. If we get a quick reaction off of it, then I think you can expect a reclaim of higher. But if you don't, then I mean, sorry, bucko.
What do you guys think about the VIX here?
Real quick, just while we're on Bitcoin, we can look at the VIX. I was going to say, I wanted to see if the Bitcoin CME chart filled its gap yet. Dude, why does that look so bullish? I hate
It looks
that.
really good, man. I know.
Probably going to like 30 and then back down.
Yeah, it does look like it wants higher.
Let me
Why are yields dropping on war news? Somebody needs to explain that to me.
You wouldn't get it, Tommy. You
I
do
not get it.
the bond.
Can you zoom in on the CME chart, Tucker? Like, let's see how much of it we filled. So we filled not all of it, but a majority of it.
Yeah. From here to here. Yeah, we filled over half.
Yeah.
So
Iran is expected to fire missiles in American bases within minutes per the comments.
American bases where?
Probably in the Middle East.
There's no way it's on US soil. They would get obliterated by by Trump if they tried to do that. This is what I was thinking was going to happen on the weekend is they have to retaliate, right? Because like they can't just get destroyed and be like, okay, we're done. Like they're going to retaliate. But then if they retaliate and nothing really happens, but then they can be like, oh, we retaliated and like blew up a Humvee or something, then for them, they're satisfied. They've saved face, they retaliated, and then everything just stops from there. Right.
Yeah.
You think we stop if they retaliate?
I think we knew they were going to retaliate. I would think that we know they're going to retaliate, save face. They're going to do something inconsequential. And then we're going to be like, okay, you didn't even do anything. Like you blew up a truck, outside of an embassy. Like, great. And then everyone's like, oh, wait, we just sold off for no reason. Nothing even happened. And then we can put in a bottom. Right.
Yeah, but I don't think if they blow up anything of ours that we're just going to be like, all right, cool, we're done. Like, You know, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
You know,
45 seconds ago, Iran launched 6 missiles towards U.S. bases in Qatar.
God.
45 seconds ago. When did crypto become so whack, bro? Like,
I didn't know that Iranian nuclear enrichment facilities were so integral to the Ethereum ecosystem. I had no idea. Like what?
turns out ETH is nuclear fusion powered.
Yeah.
A war in the Middle East wasn't a part of your investment thesis? That's too damn bad. God.
I mean, I think it's kind of nothing news, bro. Like, they're firing missiles at U.S. embassies in the Middle East. It's like, all we have to do is just not bomb them back after that, and then we go up. It's that simple. We only keep selling off if the U.S. just goes, oh, you did anything. Now you're going to get destroyed. That's when we start selling off. We knew they were going to do something.
I mean, I would agree. It's like they're limited on what they could do. You know, again, I'm not an expert, but like if I had to guess, like they're very limited on what they could do, what they will do. You know, probably not totally detrimental to anything. And if they know if they do anything like crazy, like we're just gonna be like, okay,
They're going to get
you guys are
eviscerated,
fucked.
bro.
Yeah,
Dude, all they have to do is just, okay, congrats, you dropped some bombs, you technically retaliated. You can go on your like domestic news channels and be like, great success bombing the embassies in Qatar. And then all we have to do is just leave it at that and be like, they didn't do shit, and then we just pump and we
What are
spring
the
out.
odds this is already a coin on Sol?
Oh man. 100% probably.
I would actually say more than 100%, maybe even 105%.
Yeah.
Guarantee.
I know people on Sol are broke now because Deck Screener's not full of like advertised coins anymore.
Mm.
You know what I mean? How those on Deck Screener, they'd be like the entire top list of coins on chain would all be promoted. They had the what was it, like that flashy gold part by it with the lightning bolts.
Yep.
There's like 2 or 3 of those now on Deck Screener when you actually scroll through it. So if that's a state of the Sol trenches, I think that says a lot. I have a question for you guys, kind of based on that. How do you think? What do you think the Sol, or not the Sol, but the Pump Fun token launch means for Solana? And you can give a short-term response as well as long-term. We kind of touched on it a little bit on Friday, but you know, Pump Fun planning on launching at about 4 billion market cap. I think fully diluted. Maybe that's not including fully diluted, but I think 4 billion. Solana currently trading at about 80 right now. How do we think that those two, from a relationship standpoint, where do they go from here?
I think the final extraction here for Pump Fun, right? Like maybe that's like the final death blow, like that last
I was
major
thinking the same
cascade for
thing, Louis. I
Sol.
wanted to see what you guys said. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
so that's just like the final blow, final extraction. Sure, big players on the Sol ecosystem get carted out, and then hopefully nature heals itself. But you know that's why we're more bullish ETH than Sol here. You know.
The final extraction.
Yeah. It
sounds like
crazy.
the title of some movie, you know, like the
final extraction, like an exorcism almost.
Yeah, they're gonna exercise all the Solana holders' money from their wallets.
They haven't already.
I mean, I'm not interested in it. Like, I'm sure it will pump on launch and then just get completely jeeted into the ground, but I don't know.
Is there anybody like I don't know anybody that's going to be buying the Pump Fund token personally?
No, I don't either.
Is it going to be an airdrop or like what is it? What are they doing?
I don't think there's going to be an airdrop. Maybe Like maybe if you launch tokens on Pump Fund, you get an airdrop. But I almost feel like that's rewarding the bad behavior. But this is Pump Fund we're talking about, so I guess nothing is necessarily out of nothing would be a surprise necessarily.
So they're not airdropping it. It's just you have to actually buy it. So like somebody that's been using Pump Fund hasn't been like accruing points like Hyperliquid, and then they're gonna get an airdrop. You actually have to go buy it.
Retail does, yeah. VC's got in though.
Okay, so that's the final extraction then. I
Yeah.
agree with Louis because I assumed it would be like an airdrop. Like if you'd been using Pump Fund to just farm yourself for like a year, you would get some rebate, but apparently not. So yeah,
It is delayed right now, so I feel like whenever they do it, it's probably going to put in a bottom on the soul pairs in some way, shape, or form. That's kind of like my trading bias on it, but yeah, I'm not buying that.
Okay, so looking at this chart here, war escalation news all morning. The bombs actually got fired. We waterfalled. I haven't seen any headlines about it actually mattering or having an impact at all. I will go back to what I said. If the US says, okay, that was cute, we destroyed you, you can't do anything, and they don't retaliate, I think we pump out of this. And I think if we get back above today's high, we're sending. On the other side of that, if the US is trying to send a message and they're like, oh, you did anything but roll over and play dead, we're going to bomb you back. We're going to waterfall even further. That's when this thing gets out. That's when we see uncontrolled selling, is if the US does anything now. Now it's their turn. That's it. Nice little Monday sell-off, refilled some low, cleared up some inefficiencies and lows from the weekend. They retaliated. Yeah. If we leave this alone, we're recovering here.
I wouldn't be surprised if they were. I wouldn't be surprised if they were on like right after they shot those missiles that they were calling up. Like, all right, let's talk.
Because there's a full opportunity to end this war right now, like done and done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If we just leave it and be like, you just did nothing, but you can say you did something to save face, we're good. But there's some people in power that I don't know if they're thinking the same way that I would be thinking about it, Yeah,
I agree.
I feel like they might be out for full-blown, I don't even want to say it, but there's some people in power that I think maybe will approach it a little bit more hostilely than me as somebody who has zero experience would. Okay, let's put it that way. I just want my bags to pump already, man. Enough of this bullshit.
Max pain is we have to deal with these headlines all summer. I hope that's not the case.
Yep.
Yeah, please.
That's what I'm. Yeah.
But I will say, like, if you look at Bitcoin Tucker on like the 1 hour for me, just entertain this 1 hour.
The 1 hour.
The 1 hour, just a 1 hour chart. That looks like a nice little retest right there. If we ignore all the news, pretend there was no news, if you were looking at this setup right here, what would you be thinking?
I mean, we filled that whole FVG. I would have tried, if I was low time frame scalping this, I would have tried to get a long filled at this mid-range. But
yeah.
And I like that we held demand. Like that whole cluster below the FVG is technically support. I like that. So if we pretend like there's no news going on, which I think sometimes is a pretty useful strategy, right?
Most
like
times.
it's hard to position and trade off of the news generally.
Yeah.
If you just ignore all that and look at the technicals, the speed in which we did this retest here was obviously catalyst driven. There were bombs fired. But if you just look at the technicals, that doesn't look too bad. It kind of looks like what you'd expect off of like a weekend nuke, Monday CME gap fill, and then a second retest, right? But again, it's a little bit of a nuanced situation because we do have some people that are dropping bombs on each other, so that might change things. So
Yes, it could.
all right, 1 minute ago, Iran launches missile strike at U.S. airbase in Qatar. Still a nothing burger. I genuinely, my gut is telling me that this is. I mean, think about it if you're in their position, right? Like you just had B-2 bombers like fly 37 hours from the U.S. undetected over your airspace, take out your 3 nuclear facilities. You're kind of like it's like a little embarrassing, right? Like just a hair that you just got smoked that bad. So you have to do something, right? Like you have to retaliate. You can't just be like, "Oh yeah, we just got like our teeth kicked in, like we're done."
Yeah.
I think this was very expected if you're them, right? You're major underdog. So they did something, but then it's like, is the thing that they did, does it even matter? You know? Does it
I
actually
mean, those
have
embassies are probably wherever they're striking is likely empty, right? They probably
That's what I
like,
mean. Yeah, it's
yeah.
like okay, so they blew up some equipment and like, these missiles might have even gotten intercepted. We don't even have the details on it. So it's like, okay, great. Like, you know, eh, I don't think it means anything. I feel like it's inconsequential. Like what they did, it just like doesn't matter. So therefore, I feel like we can expect this level to hold as long as we don't. If we don't see a headline that's like Trump posting on Truth Social being like stupid leaders in Iran should have listened to me. Like I'm trying to make Iran great again, and then like drops another bomb on them and like
Dude.
takes out like civilians. Then we're cooked.
Then
We're done. Then we're going to full blown war. But they have a chance to end this right here. Okay,
Yeah.
let them get their shot in so they can say that they did something. That's just how I'm thinking of it. Do you guys agree or disagree? That's just
that would
how
be that would be great, but this is like you punch somebody in the face and you're like, don't hit me back.
I was thinking the same thing.
Like, you know what I mean? Like that is not
Yeah.
gonna go well, probably. So
But it's kind of more like this. Imagine you're fighting in like a UFC match and you just like beat the crap out of some guy. Okay. And then he gets up, you've already won, right? And then like while they're raising hands, the guy like pushes you, while they're raising your hand that you won, the guy pushes you. It's it's like, oh, okay, am I gonna swing back on him? I already won. I don't need to swing back. Like I clobbered him.
that might be a more fair analogy. Yeah.
I feel like what they did right now is like they just pushed us, and it's like, okay, you already got submitted. I don't know, but maybe I'm not thinking about it the right way. I feel like we could end it right here by not doing anything.
Yeah.
Do you think somebody's going to be the bigger man here?
No, that's the problem.
That's
I don't
the
think
problem.
that they
Yeah,
will.
no.
I do
feel
understand.
like they love to take the low road. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. The race to the bottom road.
Yeah, literally.
I do understand the argument that so far the war has kind of just been like purely cosmetic, like all strike one, you strike one, not serious targets. We told you a million times we were going to strike it, so there aren't any casualties. I can see an argument like that in place, but then I think what I would ask is, okay, what happened? Like, does it keep escalating then? We kind of already asked the questions. Oh, shit. Butters is attacking me. Oh. I mean, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
It's over.
He did that thing that cats do where they get a claw under your skin and you can't get away.
Yeah.
But no, I can get on board with the idea that like it's been mostly cosmetic thus far. Like I said, you strike one, I strike one. The question is, okay, is that it? Or are they going to keep escalating?
I just hope someone's ready to just be done, you know. No one wins in a situation like this, you know.
No.
Any adults in the room?
No.
No.
Far from it, brother. Far from it.
No.
Yeah. All right. Well, that should take us into the end. Somebody want to take us out here?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. It's better when we can talk about markets just being markets. I guess this is kind of markets being markets in a way, but you know what I mean, right? The headlines that are just causing these crazy whipsaws back and forth, definitely add a lot of variance to the way that markets are trading right now. So hopefully we're close to the end in regards to the headlines impacting price. I don't know. I'm not going to make any strong statements about that right now. But there's certainly a lot of conflict going on. I think the important thing is, Bitcoin is holding above 100K. As long as that's the case, a lot of altcoins specifically are going to be looking to revert some of their downside price action later this week. So we'll see what we get. Below 100, we're having different conversations. Maybe we have them on market check later this week, but rest assured, we will be here to talk about it with you guys all week. And a reminder that market check it goes live about 15 minutes after 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So 11:15, you can expect to find us live on YouTube. And a reminder that we are live every single weekday, Monday through Friday. As long as the New York Stock Exchange is open, you can expect to find us. But make sure as well to tune into Market Talk, hosted by the legendary King Wabi. He does an excellent job with that show. And it is a Twitter Spaces, or X Spaces rather, hosted through the Because Bitcoin account as well as his personal account. So make sure to stay following and subscribe so you can be notified, not just when we schedule those spaces ahead of time, but of course also when we go live. But yeah, we hope that you enjoyed the show, guys. As we go out, I'm just going to play a clip talking about the BB terminal, which you saw for portions of this show. And as I always say, I mean, it's going to be your go-to tool for this cycle. That's true whether or not you are a beginner, whether or not you are an expert. We have a place for everybody. We have a utility for everybody, whether or not you are a long-term investor looking to make educated decisions, informed decisions for your investment portfolio based on data. We have that. If you are looking to, be a more active trader, trading lower time frames, derivatives, open interest data, we have that as well. And of course, whether or not you are an on-chain degen, maybe you love DeFi, maybe you love meme coins, maybe you don't like being called a degen. You just like being called, or you just like being on the kind of the edge of where crypto innovation is occurring. We've got a product for you as well. So check out the BB terminal, guys. I promise it's best in class. If you haven't used it already, you will not be disappointed. And of course, we were nice enough to let you get your foot in the door with our free portfolio tracking. So check out that as well. But that's it for today's show, guys. We hope that you enjoyed it. Hope that you'll be back again tomorrow. And we hope that you hit the like button as well. Thanks again, as always, for tuning in. And of course, stay safe.
Tired of outdated trading tools, confused charts, dozens of tabs, endless stress? You're not alone. Introducing BB Terminal, your all-in-one command center for crypto trading. Track your portfolio, monitor the markets, stay ahead, all in one place. From chaos to clarity, from struggle to success. BB Terminal,